We got the achievements here. So Yokohama, Champions League Senior Champion in 22 and Champions League Top 16 in 23, plus a Top 16 in Aichi in the Seniors Division in 21 as well.
And then for Fernando over the other side of the table there, the 2022 Santiago Regional Finalist as a Senior, Buenos Aires Special Event Senior Champion, the Santiago Special Event Senior Champion in 2018, and the Sao Paulo International Top 16 there as well in 2018. Worth noting, both players are currently 17 years old. That doesn't matter, they're here to etch their name in the pantheon of Pokemon champion. Let's have a look for Fernando. One copy of Boss Orders. Oh, Seinosuke has prized the Prime Catcher and one copy of Voramuni X for Fernando. The Chorus Tenacity Boss Orders. 2 copies of Crushing Hammer, Ross. They could be impactful. Yeah, and Prime Catcher and one Crushing Hammer prize for Seinosuke here is not ideal because they are some of your gusting options. If you're worried about the ace spec, they're both playing Prime Catcher. Jobs are good. And Prime Catcher, did it win our bracket in the end yesterday? It certainly did. Of course it won the bracket. Well, it's won both the finals here. I'm just thinking when we made our caster predictions, should have just said Prime Catcher. Here we go, the Pokemon Trading Card Game Masters Division World Championships Final is going, and Seinosuke is going first with an Earthen Vessel. And I think this Earthen Vessel is going to be super impactful. Seinosuke is going to have to realistically try and get as much energy in place so you can try and limit the effectiveness of that initialization. Going to discard one copy of Basic Dark to get any 2 basic energy he likes from his deck. So let's take a little second to explain how Seinosuke's deck is going to work. It revolves around that Voramuni X, has 2 attacks. Frenzied Gouging just says, I'm going to KO what is ever in your active position, and then you take prize cards as well. However, it does have to do 200 damage to itself. Calamity Storm for 2 basic Dark Energy and a colorless. There's 100 damage. You may discard a stadium in play. If you do, it will do 120 more. Worth noting, 220, however, is 10 short of KOing an Iron Thorns EX. Yeah, that's one of the big things we need to be watching in this matchup. Calamity Storm, when this card was printed, 220 really was one of the magic numbers. There's very few Pokemon, like Roaring Moon and Iron Thorns, which have more than 220 HP as a basic. But it's become more common in the Scarlet and Violet block. So that means you're not always doing enough. So it looks like Seinosuke is just going to attach your basic energy to active Roaring Moon and pass. That is Fernando's first turn here, and he's going to kick off this final run with an Arvin, letting you search for a tool, card, and an item. And it looks like he was ironing up that technical machine, Turbo Energize. Phenomenal turn 1 play, Turbo Energize, accelerates energy. And one of the things about Iron Thorns is, takes free energy. It's not an automatic thing where you can just get it going really quickly. And there's no other great energy acceleration we're playing here. So we're really relying on Turbo Energize and then using double Turbo as we go. And also going for that item card there. It's going to go and get, you know, Techno Radar gets more Iron Thorns. Yeah, Techno Radar lets you discard 1 card from your hand to search for any 2 future Pokemon, put them in your hand. That is going to search out 50% of Fernando's Pokemon, as we do see 2 Iron Thorns there being taken. One's going to hit the bench as well. Let's have a quick talk as we do see that Technical Machine Turbo Energize getting attached. We see a basic energy attached as well, and I imagine we'll see that Turbo Energize attack layer, and you search your deck for 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon any way you like. Fernando is going to really try and stick that Iron Thorns there in the active and make use of that initialization ability, which turns off all Rulebox Pokemon ability from your opponent while it's in that active. Yeah, it's not one of these decks, you know, these Roaring Moon decks don't rely on abilities like something like a Roaring Moon does, or a Charizard does, for instance, but it's going to turn off enough of the deck. It's going to turn off Squawk ability, for instance, which is so important, Seinosuke actually plays 2 of them. It's going to turn off Radiant Greninja. It's going to turn off Petulant, and its switching ability, it doesn't shut down the deck, but it's annoying enough. Here comes a Pokestop. All going to get 1 copy of Trekking Shoes, but did discard a Boss's Orders and a basic Dark Energy. That's actually not too bad, though. We are going to see the Trekking Shoes. Then you look at the top card of your deck. If you like it, pop it in your hand. If not, you can discard it and draw the next one. It is an Ultra Ball, and here we go. Shinosuke is off to the race. He's going to discard a Pokemon Catcher and a Judge, search his deck for any Pokemon and pop it in his hand. One important point to note, Seinosuke here is playing Dark Patch. It accelerates darkness energy from the discard to a benched Darkness Pokemon.
Now, there's Darkness Energy in the discard. Wonderful. You can accelerate it. But you need to have a bench Darkness Pokemon as a target for that card. It won't go to the active. So we do get a non-EX Roaring Moon, just a little one there, and that's going to go down onto the bench. And if you want to start accelerating energy, you can.
Energy is going to be really important here, and Seinosuke has two ways to accelerate that. As you said, Ross, we do have Dark Patch. We also have Professor Cider's Vitality that lets you attach 1 basic energy to 2 of your ancient Pokemon. As we do see it being played there, so we are going to see 1 energy to the active and 1 to the bench. And here we go, we're going to see 1 there, and get to draw 3 as well. There is a chance we see a KO here from a Frenzy Gouging. There is a basic energy in hand. Seinosuke can attack this turn and has a Dark Patch in hand as well. Seinosuke off to the races.
And that is the thing about Frenzied Gouging. It says, what do you got in the active? Only joking, don't care. It's knocked out.
But it looks like, I think we're going to see a Calamity Storm there.
And it not discarding
the stadium.
I don't mind this, because
yes.
220 doesn't get a KO. Clearly wants Pokestop for the following turn. So saying, look, 100 damage, I'll KO you next turn.
Oh, we do see a heads-on Crushing Hammer there, though. Ross, that's going to discard an energy from the active Roaring Moon EX for Seinosuke. Now, we did mention that energy is going to be really important for Seinosuke. Fernando's going to be playing the mini-game of, can I remove these energies just as fast as you attach them? Fernando is going to play a Pokegear, going to grab that Colress's Tenacity, fantastic support, letting you search your deck for an energy card and a stadium. And you've already mentioned, Ross, that Seinosuke really likes having that Pokestop. Well, Fernando might just say, well, you can't have it anymore as I put my Lost City down.
I mean, that is a real telegraph, right? I don't want to do extra damage. Who wants to do an extra 120 damage? No, no, no. You only do that if you really want to keep the stadium in play, which telegraphs to Fernando you want the stadium, which says to Fernando, you know, try not to replace my stadium, would you? And Fernando's like, yeah, I'm definitely getting rid of it. But I'm going to use it first. Gets a Lost Vacuum, but does lose a Judge and a Lost City. And we know there's a Lost City in hand, which is going to come down, replace that Pokestop, which is fun. And we can attach here and attack. We can do Volt Cyclone for 120, because remember, Double Turbo will reduce the damage done by 20.
Worth noting as well that the text on Volt Cyclone means you have to remove an energy from your active and put it on one of your bench Pokemon. So we do see that lightning energy cycloning to the bench, 120 damage onto Seinosuke's active Roaring Moon EX. Now, does have an easy KO via Calamity Storm if he likes. Does have Pokemon Catcher in hand, but we do see Dark Patch being played, going to power up that bench Roaring Moon, who can now attack with Vengeance Fletchling, which does 70 plus 10 for each ancient card in your discard pile.
Really trying to figure out which the best one to try and KO is here. The one on the bench that's got free energy on is a very enticing target. But it looks like we are playing Pokemon Catcher here. We're going to see the flip. It is a Tails. Does not get the Iron Thorns into the active. Clearly trying to go after the energy. The KO is not the issue. The issue is, which one would you rather KO? And here comes a Judge. This is the favorite toy of Fernando, but Seinosuke is going, yeah, you know what, mate? I think that looks like fun. Let's do this. And betting on the fact that his board is good enough to be able to survive this Judge.
This is really interesting, because Judge isn't a card that we traditionally see in a standard format too often, but both players opting to play it here, reducing both players' hand size down to 4. Judge can quite honestly decide these games if players don't draw particularly well. Let's see what Seinosuke has. Are there many options in that hand? I saw a Pokegear at the very least. So we'll have some options to try and grab some supporters at a later date.
And has a fully powered Roaring Moon on the bench.
Yes.
So has an attacker built up for next turn. So it seems like a good shout. Now here we go with the Calamity Storm for 220, getting a KO without having to self-damage, which is quite important. And then we get a fresh Iron Thorns in the active. Seinosuke gets the first KO. Can Fernando respond? The answer is, well, yeah, actually pretty easily.
Yeah, so we do see our first prize cards taken here in our Masters final. We do see Fernando start off a turn there with a Pokegear 3.0. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck and grab any support that you find. Now, I think I saw a Boss's Orders in there, and maybe a Judge as well. Yep, we see a Judge there, and it looks like he took the Judge.
Yeah, he's basically saying, look, if you're going to judge me, I'm going to judge you right back. But right now, we're getting an extra energy on. I don't mind this.
Oh, Crushing Hammer here, Ross.
It's coming up.
It's a Tails.
Which seems fair after the Pokemon Catcher. Here comes the Judge. And what we see here, remember, you have to move an energy when you attack with your Iron Thorns. So what he's basically doing is going, right, put an extra energy on here, and I can just move one to the bench afterwards. And that way, I've still got free energy on my active if it doesn't get KO'd, while having an energy on my bench. It taking advantage of the fact that you're moving energy with the attack.
This judge could be really interesting here for Shionosuke, because this Roaring Moon EX is going to get KO'd via this Volt Cyclone, and that bench Roaring Moon only has 140 HP. So if he hasn't got an attacker here in that hand, this could be a fairly quick game one. As we do see Volt Cyclone going to KO that Roaring Moon EX. Fernando evens it up at 4 prize cards each. Shionosuke, what have you got in your hand? Can you respond?
Right, we've got 4 cards from the judge. We've got there's a nest ball in hand. That's perfect. Will allow Cifuentes to go and search out any Pokemon. It is, of course, a Roaring Moon EX. That is the big threat here. The single prize Roaring Moon, it takes a while to get up, and this isn't a deck like we saw in the Juniors final, which is built to really accelerate into big KOs. This is a backup attacker, an extra attacker. It's a 1 of to 4 Roaring Moon EX. It's a nice little bonus. It's the EX you're going for. Professor Sada comes down. That attaches energy to each of those Pokemon if you wish, but no point attaching to the active. That would be a waste.
And worth noting, this Vengeance Fletchling is going to be really interesting, as he does have a basic energy to attach as well. Shionosuke is reloading his Roaring Moon. This Vengeance Fletchling is actually going to bring this Iron Thorns into range of a Calamity Storm, so this damage is super relevant, even though it won't be swinging for a KO. We have a Dark Patch as well. Shionosuke has 3 energy on that Roaring Moon EX on the bench, Ross. Oh my goodness.
And if you take a KO on the active here, you force a double turbo just for an attack. Right now, it seems like we're just content to do 100 with 110 with Vengeance Fletchling. But here's the deal, 2 turns time, Seinosuke's winning this game because you just use Calamity Storm and then use Frenzied Gouging on whatever, and that's the game.
Here we see a Crushing Hammer here, Ross. Let's see what it is.
It's
Tails. Energy is safe.
Now, not flipping heads on this Crushing Hammer is Fernando so far. Has got the attack, but it's not. It is going to get a KO. It's going to be a clean KO, actually, but it's a Prime Catcher onto the bench Roaring Moon EX. Will need to retreat, which of course it can because of that Future Boost energy capsule. But it basically means, you know, that's a 2-hit KO. You're not 1-hit KO in this. And I just told you it was going to reel off 2 KOs in a row. So you know what? Yes. Get this. Damage it now. It's not going to get 2 KOs. It's only going to get 1. Love this Prime Catcher.
Whew, okay, well, let's take a second just to take a deep breath here. Oh, my goodness gracious. We do see Fernando going to play that Earthen Vessel and discard 1 card from your hand to get any 2 basic energy. That Prime Catcher was super important. We do see an energy attachment to the axe. Now, bear in mind, or we do see a Professor's Research there as well for Fernando. Going to draw 7. That active Iron Thorns EX does have a free retreat cost thanks to that Future Booster energy capsule. We see some Pokemon catches. We see some double turbo energy. We see a cancelling clone.
Love that. Future Boost on both of them means you get the extra damage and you get the free retreat. And of course, you've got potential Pokemon catcher for next turn, and I love this. Getting the first KO on this Roaring Moon is absolutely huge because it was such an easy map for Seinosuke there to just hit with Vengeance Fletchling and then just hit twice in a row with the EX and win the game. You're now forcing a 3rd Roaring Moon EX to come out.
Here we go, Pokestop, Ultra Ball, and then the Pheasantipity EX. Worth noting that Flip the Script will not be able to be activated at any point during this game due to that initialization ability. We are going to see an Ultra Ball here, though. Now, I've been very intrigued to see what Shionosuke opts to go for. The Petulant, while it can't use this ability, is actually a super relevant attacker in this matchup, dealing 60 for each prize card your opponent has taken with that Irritated Outburst attack, and Ross only does it for 2 basic energy. That right there could be an impactful attack.
It's the perfect Pokemon with which to take your final 2 prizes.
Yes.
When you're tied 4 prizes taken each, it does 240 for 2 energy. You can Frenzied Gouging for 3 energy, or you can Irritated Outburst for 2. I don't want to waste any energy. And of course, it's a Darkness Pokemon, so Dark Patch works absolutely perfectly. And you know what? Yeah, that sounds good to me. But instead, going for the Roaring Moon EX, which is, again, a perfectly valid attacker here. Frenzied Gouging will finish it off, choosing to go Roaring Moon. And here's the thing. Petulant is only good if you give up those next 2 prizes. Seinosuke, I think, here is trying to not give up prizes. Can they get a KO with Vengeance Fletchling here?
I wouldn't have thought so. You have to consult the discard pile. That was a failed search there on that Pokegear 3.0. Going to shuffle those cards back into the deck. And it's real interesting here. I mean,
we don't need one more ancient. There was 110 last turn, so you only need to do 120 this turn. So you don't need one more ancient card in the discard. Now, if you can pull that off, that's why you don't go Petulant, because 3 prizes taken means Petulant's no good. Here we go with that stretcher, and it's getting an energy. Roaring Moon comes down with the energy from the Night Stretcher, and no, it is just a KO with the Roaring Moon EX.
That Calamity Storm going to put Shiokawa onto 2 prize cards there. Did take the Prime Catcher out the prize cards, so let's keep an eye on that. Over to Fernando, going to promote that Iron Thorns into the active, just consulting the discard pile. And it seems to be Shiokawa, I think, is in the driver's seat here. Does have plenty of attackers with plenty of energy. That is Fernando. That is not what Fernando wants to have happen. Looks like I'm going to be playing a Pokemon Catcher, perhaps. And canceling Cologne first into Ironer.
Yeah, that Canting Cologne's not really doing anything. No. It's just getting a card out of your hand, filling your deck a little bit, increasing your odds of drawing what you need in the future. 2 cards for Seinosuke, 2 cards for Fernando, and Energy Lotto. We've got Double Turbo, and we've got is that a Giovanni?
There's a Giovanni's Charisma, letting you actually attack with an Iron Thorns in 1 turn if you like, because it lets you attach 1 energy to your active from your hand and also remove an energy from your opponent's active and pop it back into their hand. Not going to be super relevant in this game, but we could see it in games 2 and 3. We do see a Techno Radar, going to discard that Energy Lotto, going to grab the Iron Thorns EX from the deck and pop it in the hand. And I would imagine we'll see it hit the bench as well.
Yeah, now of course at this point, Seinosuke doesn't need to KO more than 1 Iron Thorns, but you still want to bench another one, so you've got an option to retreat into a fresh one, give your opponent a more difficult route to victory, so to speak. So we are going to see the Volt Cyclone coming in here doing 140 damage, which is enough to KO. We're even on 2 prizes each. Seinosuke here, very simply, a Frenzied Gouging wins a game, or your Petulant will win the game. What are we looking at, Shay?
We are going to see the Trekking Shoes here, just debating on what's in the discard pile. I do think a Frenzied Gouging would force sudden death, I think, if that was in a game 3 scenario. Oh, we do see a Earthen Vessel, and we do see the Radiant Greninja in hand. Energy is what we really need to see right here.
Yeah, we do need to see it. Now, it is a fresh, there is a fresh Roaring Moon on the bench.
Yes.
So if we can get the energy on that, then you will be able to KO without KOing yourself, and you would get the clean win there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you are correct.
Yes. Is absolutely fine. Your Roaring Moon is fine. I imagine Vengeance Fletchling is not that close. So we're looking for Petulant, or we're looking for Roaring Moon. Those are the 2 cards we're looking for here to get an attack off and send Seinosuke 1 game up in this Masters Division final. There's an energy, 1 Dark Patch will do it.
Doesn't have it there, so we're going to see the Vengeance Fletchling there. And it's fine. No, this is perfectly fine. Fernando doesn't have a way to KO a Roaring Moon in 1 turn, so this damage is super relevant. Basically saying that my Calamity Storm will KO you next turn, or I could Frenzy Gouging if you don't have a boss's orders. Over to Fernando, though. Pokemon Catcher ×2, DTE, Giovanni's Charisma, and Crushing Hammer. All of these could be super relevant. Here we do see the Pokemon Catcher.
It's head. Brings it into the active, but remember, we know Seinosuke does have Prime Catcher in, or did he still have it?
It got Iono, Crushing Hammer. That is a tail.
That would have been absolutely huge as well. So what can we do here? We got Giovanni's Charisma is going to remove an energy. It is going to be relevant in this game. Shay will allow Fernando to attach an energy if he wishes. So we get a new Iron Thorns into the active. We attach the Double Turbo.
Wow.
We hit for 120, and Seinosuke here. Now, Prime Catcher would win this game straight up.
Yes.
You need a switch, and you need Gusting. Will win the games at this stage. You can KO the benched Iron Thorns with your non-EX Roaring Moon. That is an option, but when we know it's doing 130, we saw it last turn, it is not KOing the active. You're frankly miles away. You're not getting 2 energy onto your active Roaring Moon because you need Dark Patch, and that won't attach to the active. So I know it's a lot to ask, but you know, Prime Catcher?
Don't think we have available. We see a basic energy, we have a Petulant. Basic energy attached to the active. We're just going to see maybe a Pay Retreat and Vengeance Fletchling again. Force the boss's orders or force any form of Gust. We see a Petulant getting benched. Won't be able to use that ability, of course. So we are going to see a Pay Retreat by the looks of it. Going to promote the Vengeance Fletchling Roaring Moon. And we'll see a Vengeance Fletchling again.
And this worries me a tiny bit, yeah.
Ooh.
Now, I don't like putting the Roaring Moon active.
Yeah.
Because if it gets KO'd, you lose all of your energy and you might not have an attacker next turn. So I kind of like putting the Petrarch active. It's still a 2-hit KO.
Yep, that is true. Oh, no, we are going to...
It is a Roaring Moon. Again, I don't think there's really a right and wrong answer here. You're just playing the percentages. What is more likely to end up going wrong for you? So, Fernando does have an opening here.
Oh, my goodness. We could see a Pokemon
Head
catcher
will be the game.
Oh,
it's not the game yet.
Gracious me.
And unfortunately has to attach double turbo to pay retreat. And this will be a KO. So all the energy is gone. And now, oh, this is getting awkward though. Seinosuke just does not have great options of which to attack. The hand is Earthen Vessel, Energy, and Nest Ball, neither of which are great options, frankly.
We are still in a good spot though, because the Earthen Vessel can search 2 basic energy. You can attach one to the active. That Petrarch isn't going to get KO'd. And that Irritated Outburst next turn would KO whatever Fernando leaves in the active. You are still vulnerable to a boss's orders or a Pokemon catcher, but Seinosuke does still have a route to victory here.
Has a route to victory, but it's not much fun when you're in game 1 of the Masters final and you're like, I can win next turn, so, you know, would you mind taking a turn?
Yeah.
Don't win this turn, so I can win next turn. You're right, it is not over, but it's not a position I really want to put myself in if I can help it. But there is no option, not even an energy attachment.
No. Oh, boss's orders is in hand, but it won't have the energy to attack, actually.
Nope, there's 2 energy. And this is the thing. We've talked about using Volt Cyclone's energy moving as an advantage, and sometimes it is.
Yep.
But sometimes it spreads out your energy so much you don't have a valid attacker. And I hate to say it, this is one of those times where it spread the energy out a bit too thin.
Ooh.
Boss's orders onto the Roaring Moon, but it's a pass. Now Seinosuke has one more turn.
Trekking shoes.
It's a Pokemon catcher, but there's no attacker.
No, we don't need that. Oh, and a Squawkabilly. A bit of a Squawkasilly here. We don't need that, and it looks like we are going to see a pass back.
And it's an energy
for the game!
Fernando takes game 1 of the Masters Division Final, tops out the energy, and that is all she wrote for game 1. We're just selling in here, Shay. We've still got 2 games to go.
Fernando proving to be a thorn in Seinosuke's side there as he wins game 1, only 1 game away from becoming a Masters champion, the first one in Chile, and get that $50,000 prize. Seinosuke still can perfectly do well here, win 2 in a row, but now Fernando is in the driver's seat. And listen to that crowd behind us. They are loving it.
And if you can all do me a favor right now, and we've got a replay. I'll ask you a favor when we get out of the replay. Let's see how game 1 went down. So we did see that big KO early from Seinosuke there, putting himself in a great position early in the game. But that was not the end of the story. We saw a return KO from Fernando here, but Seinosuke, after 1 more KO, it started going less well.
Yeah, as we do see the dark patch there. The early to mid game for Seinosuke was exactly what he needed. Just getting energy in play and throwing out damage. Fernando was able to weather the storm though and grind this game back with some clutch Pokemon catcher and boss's orders, and even the Giovanni's charisma of all things proving super relevant. There we do see a catcher's tails. That would have been very impactful there, but the Vengeance Fletchling, I think, did get a lot of value here, Ross.
Absolutely.
But just not enough to where Seinosuke could win.
Seinosuke put himself in a position to win this game, but ran out of attackers, and that's what Iron Thorns does. Runs you out of attackers, top decks and energy, wins game 1. Now, my request, the favor I've got to ask you guys, when you rewatch this stream, and you will, because it's been a phenomenal weekend, please skip over the bit where I said I wasn't taking Iron Thorns as a legitimate contender to win the World Championships, because I think at this stage it's fair to say I've been proven well and truly wrong. It is 1 game up in this Masters Division Final, and I think we just saw a double mulligan from both players.
Yeah, worth noting that Fernando's deck only plays 4 basic Pokemon, so mulligans could be a real big impactful part of the game. I think there's another mini game here that we need to keep an eye on here for Seinosuke, is that those energy only plays 9 copies. So Castle Professor Sada and Dark Patch are going to be super impactful for getting them back into play. We do see another mulligan there for Fernando. But whew, let's just take a deep breath, everyone, and compose ourselves here in this game too. What do you think is going through Seinosuke's head, Ross?
Well, I'm thinking, you know what? That game was winnable. It just didn't go my way at the end. I know this deck can run me out of energy. It did run me out of energy, but I had a turn where Prime Catcher was the win, and it got Iono the turn before. This is a winnable game, and also I'm going second here. Yeah. I'm looking for a big, well, I assume going second, so I'm looking for a big KO as early as possible. I have had a quick little sneaky look at Seinosuke's prizes here, and there's a Dark Patch and an Energy, but actually has managed to prize Pheasantipity and Squawkabilly, which are wonderful prizes, because those cards are terrible in this matchup.
Yeah, you'll never be able to get used to that Subjugating Changeability or that Squawk and See, so have them in the prize cards, that's perfectly fine by me. Fernando did get another mulligan there, so Seinosuke will at minimum be starting the game here with 2 extra cards to start. And yeah, there is actually a real easy route for Seinosuke to win here. It's because Volt Cyclone is so energy intensive. If you get a big early KO before Fernando has a chance to get energy in play, you could actually wrap up a quick game 2. It is a possibility. Let's see, does Fernando have a basic? The answer is he does not. Now this is actually really interesting here, Ross. Seinosuke wants to get a lot of energy into play. That will rely on cards like Professor Sada, Earthen Vessel, and Dark Patch. If you give Seinosuke extra cards to start this game, you give him extra opportunity and resources to flood the board with energy.
Yeah, and that's always fun when you can do that. Worth noting, Fernando only actually plays 1 copy of Turbo Energize. Now, when you combine that with the 4 copies of Arven, it becomes easier. But this is not a given that we're going to see a turn 1 Turbo Energize like we did last game. We're up to 4 mulligans here. Don't worry, we've got a lovely view here where we can see the die, which is just rolling over again and again. 4 extra cards is going to be big.
Now, you mentioned here all the way back in round 3 that there is such a thing as the Judge Ball here, Ross, that does come into play when there is a lot of mulligans. Why don't you tell the people about that?
Basically, if you mulligan again and again and again and again and again, there comes a point where the judge goes, look, I love you guys, but we need to start this game. So they just reveal cards from the top of the deck until a basic is revealed, and that basic goes into play as your active Pokemon, and then you draw an opening hand of 6 cards with your active. That makes 7. It's actually sometimes a massive disadvantage, because the Judge Ball will reveal a bunch of cards from your deck, but of course we've just had game 1. Seinosuke at this point kind of knows what Fernando's playing. But right now, Seinosuke is starting with a minimum of 5 extra cards. And remember, you're looking for a big explosive turn 1 with lots of energy flooding the board. This will help.
It will. We do see another mulligan there. And it's worth noting, he said, you know, that would reveal cards from the list. I would imagine that both players have been studying and trying to work out exactly what both players are playing. I also would imagine, if this was me, if I was Seinosuke or Fernando, my last night would have been testing this matchup a lot. And it might have been friendly, it might have been quite hard for Fernando to try and get copies of Roaring Moon EX to test against, because I don't think it was on many people's radar.
Yeah, a bunch of people here would have brought multiple decks thinking, right, I can switch last minute, which is, for the record, generally a bad idea. But lots of people would have brought lots of decks here. Don't know how many people have brought a sleeved up Roaring Moon to the tournament here. Do we have? We're up to 7 mulligans here. There's a couple of dice now. I say dice, we're into plural on top of Seinosuke's deck here that we are tracking along for you. We're on to 7 mulligans. That is an opening hand of 14 cards, Shay.
Yeah, double what you normally would have. And
a lot of cards, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of cards. And I think if you are Seinosuke here, where you have to win these next 2 games to become a world champion, I would love the idea of having 7 extra cards to start the game. Fernando, do you have a basic? He does not.
Okay. Are we finally going to see a Judge Ball?
I think, off the top of my head, I think it's 8, right? When you get to 8, that is when the Judge Ball starts, but maybe not, actually.
I'll be honest with you, I've not looked it up. I don't know how strict it is, but look, we got 2 phenomenal table judges there.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's nothing we have to worry about. The judges are going to figure this one out for us, as we're going to have a minimum of 8 extra cards drawn by Seinosuke here so that they can start their turn. And I'm just putting it out there. I think they're probably going to have a good turn, because most people would quite like a 15-card opening hand. So, there is a discussion going on. I think
we are going to see the Judge Ball. I was right at 8, by the way. Thank you very much. No in a rule book here, Albert, but I think we might be seeing it. I think Table Judge there just describing exactly what the process is. Probably don't see it too often. I've actually never had this happen in a game that I've played in or a game that I've seen. This is exciting.
I did play a Quadrakian deck way back in the day, and I did have a Judge Ball. I don't think it was quite as strict back then, but I think I mulliganed something like 12 times, and a judge came and did a Judge Ball. It was some ridiculous number. But I've never casted a game of Judge Ball before, and I've casted a lot of games. But this is a downside, and this is actually, it's why we see Fernando playing a bunch of Ino and a bunch of Judge, because actually, this is going to happen, and you don't want to give your opponent their entire deck for the first couple of turns, so it is quite important, right? And it does look like we have a table judge shuffling up. Is this the first ever World Championships Judge Ball?
I think it might be, and here we go. So the judge is going to keep revealing. Oh, now we get one at the third.
Wouldn't have even been a mulligan.
No, it wouldn't have even been a mulligan. So yeah, there we go. That is the Judge Ball concluded. So now Fernando will start the game there with that Iron Thorn. Now I wonder, since Iron Thorns was the 6th most popular deck here at the World Championships, I wonder how often this happened, throughout the course of the event. Because quite honestly, when you play 4 basic Pokemon, you have to imagine that's quite a common occurrence.
So the maths is, and this is super rough, all right, don't judge me too harshly, but if you play 4 copies of a card in a deck, you've got a roughly just under 50% chance of drawing it in your opening hand if you play a full 4. So you definitely should not mulligan 8 times very much at all. So there is Seinosuke going, look, I know how this matchup works, because here's the deal, you don't have to take all the mulligans. You have to announce how many you're taking, but you don't have to take them all. And it does look like Turbo Energize is prized.
And it looks like Seinosuke here is starting us off here in our game 2 in our Masters Worlds final. But yes, Fernando has prized that 1 copy of Turbo Energize. We saw it get used a lot in game 1. Fernando will not have option to use that. And Seinosuke does have prized that Serendipity, Dark Patch, Pokestop, Squawkabilly, Trekking Shoes, and Basic Dark Energy. In all honesty, not the worst of prizes there for Seinosuke. Has so many cards to play here, just trying to work out how do I optimize this turn 1.
And prizing 2 judges after you gave your opponent an extra 8 cards of a mulligan, frankly not ideal. There's 3 judge and 1 Ino in the list. That's how you hand disrupt after something like a Judge Ball. It's going to be difficult for Fernando to pull that off next turn. So
here we go.
We've got an Earthen Vessel discarding what I think might have been the only energy in the hand, actually. But then you go and search out a couple more. The goal here is simple. Attach an energy, try and get a couple of Dark Patch, get some Pokemon down. That is your goal before you start getting disrupted. If you can get a few Pokemon down, an energy and 1 or 2 Dark Patch, that's pretty much your ideal turn 1 here.
Yeah, and that seems perfectly fine to me, especially if you've got a big hand like that. Hopefully, it should be easier for Seinosuke to do that. Has got the Prime Catcher currently in hand as well. Look at, you see that flash of pink there from the Ace spec. We see Ultra Ball, we see a Nest Ball being eyed up here. I imagine this would be for a big Roaring Moon EX.
Yeah, you got to think so at some point. That Roaring Moon is going to be pretty big. We've got energy in hand now. We do have Prime Catcher in hand.
Yeah.
Did I spy a Dark Patch at the back of the hand? Not entirely sure. Let's do a Nest Ball here and figure it out later.
Like that second Nest Ball, I think, was getting failed there by the looks of it. It's going to shuffle up the deck. And yeah, it looks like shuffling up the deck. Seinosuke has a ton of resource there. And is there a dark? You'd like to imagine there'd be a Dark Patch. It looks like we see an energy attached to the active Roaring Moon. No, and a pass.
Okay, not the best turn 1 after a 15-card opening hand. I'm going to be honest with you. We do see a Pokegear coming down, and really, Fernando's looking for a Judge or an Ino here, because that hand is absurd. I don't see one. I only see Colress's Tenacity and Professor's Research, and we really want a hand disruption. There's an Arven in hand and a Giovanni. I don't think Fernando's been able to find a Judge or an Ino here, and Seinosuke still has a 10-card hand.
Yeah.
You do not want them to have that big a hand. It's why you play these cards, but 2 judges in the prizes, it's going to make it much more difficult to find it in the deck.
Yeah, 2 judges in the prize and that Turbo Energize. So if Fernando tries to grab that, will not be able to. Let's see what Fernando opts to do here. Let's see that Pokemon catch is going to be really impactful. We'll turn off Dark Patch to the bench, and we do see a head. So now that Roaring Moon EX will not be able to accelerate to via Dark Patch.
And here's why we probably saw the failed Nest Ball last turn. This is a deck that relies on Pecharunt switching your active. Too many bench Pokemon with no energy on means lots of good gusting targets, so you keep it small and you try and keep all of your Pokemon with energy on, so they're all valid attackers. You're not going to play much Switch if you're playing Pecharunt. So that Pokemon catcher potentially very, very big.
We did see the Professor's Research there being played for Fernando. Going to draw 7 cards and a Techno Radar. Going to discard the basic lightning energy to search for 2 future Pokemon. Now, we did see some Crushing Hammer in that hand, which might be seen played, unsure, but we do see that Techno Radar concluding for the 2 copies of Iron Thorns. And worth noting, this is actually Fernando's first time having a deck search, so we'll be trying to work out what is in those prize cards.
Yeah, and this is a game where with no Turbo Energize, the turn 1 KO or the turn 2 KO going first would have been absolutely huge. Your opponent doesn't have a way to accelerate energy. If you can get a big Frenzied Gouging KO turn 1 or turn 2 going first, that gets rid of all the energy, and Fernando has to double attach in order to attack. But now, with an active Roaring Moon with no energy, seems like even an opening hand of 15 cards has not gone Seinosuke where they want to be.
We are just going to see Future Booster Energy Capsule attached to both, a retreat and a pass. All right, Seinosuke, what can we do? Pokestop's going to end the field and be activated. Night Stretcher, Pokemon Catcher, Roaring Moon EX.
Not too bad. I also had a quick gander at the list. There is exactly 1 switching card in the list, and you know what that is?
I'm going to guess that is that A-Spec Prime Catcher.
Which you do not want to use as a switch. It's way better as Gusting, but with Pecharunt turned off and will be turned off for the entire game, that is essentially your only option here. So this is an awkward situation. You've got a free energy attacker stuck in the active. It's not where you want to be by any stretch.
I think there's a world. I can see basic energy in hand. I can see Prime Catcher, and I think 2 copies of Dark Patch. We could see this Ultra Ball being played here. Going to grab a Roaring Moon EX, attach Dark Patch, Prime Catcher, and then you could KO the bench Iron Thorns EX from Fernando, and remove the energy as well. Let's say that's what happens. We're going to see an energy attached to the active.
That would be huge. If we could pull that off.
Here is Dark
Patch onto the Frenzied Gouging, not Frenzied Gouging, the
Vengeance Fletchling.
Thank you, Vengeance Fletchling, Roaring Moon on the bench. So we're not going for that bigger.
But there is the Prime Catcher there, Ross.
You had to Prime Catcher. It's your only switching target. And now we're going to see Vengeance Fletchling for, frankly, not enough. Unless we see a manual retreat. There's a judge. I love this.
This is.
Look at your opponent's board and you go, look, you don't have double turbo energy right now. You just don't have it.
Yep.
So I'm just going to judge you, and either you draw double turbo, or you literally can't attack next turn, and I get a cheeky 2-hit KO with this, and then you basically lose the game. Love it. Put your opponent in a situation where you don't think they're going to be able to attack. That sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, and it could be the disruption deck getting disrupted here from the judge. We do see energy. We see a Professor Sar. That's going to be really impactful later on. And we do see a Roaring Moon EX in the hand as well. If I'm Seinosuke, I'm thinking the judge shined favorably there on me. And it looks like we're going to see a Vengeance Fletchling. I think there was 2 ancient cards in the discard pile, so that would have been 90 damage.
Yeah, it does actually mean you're going to need another 5 next turn to get the KO, which is going to be a little bit awkward. But I don't think it's going to be.
But worth noting there, Ross, Fernando did, off the judge draw into Colress's Tenacity, letting you search your deck for an energy card and a stadium. Double turbo energy quickly getting taken there for Fernando. Now, normally that would reduce damage down from Volt Cyclone down to 120, but thanks to that future booster energy capsule, that Volt Cyclone will KO Seinosuke's active Roaring Moon.
And that was still, I think it was a good bet from Seinosuke there to play that judge.
Oh, the Pokestop there did get rid of an Iron Thorns and a basic energy.
Yeah, not ideal. Didn't really give him any value there at all. And, you know, your opponent's playing 1 of the Colress supporter, 4 double turbo. It was a decent shout with the judge. Didn't work out, unfortunately. And things are starting to look pretty bad for Seinosuke very quickly. Firstly, you're about to lose a Pokemon. Secondly, you're about to go down to 1 Pokemon, and you're not going to have much energy.
I don't know. Seinosuke did have a Professor Sada in hand, so there's a basic energy in the hand as well. We can Professor Sada attack and take a KO here. There is a Professor Sada in hand, and there is an Earthen Vessel here, Rosh. Seinosuke can reload and take a KO.
It looked bad, and actually just drew a second Professor Sada's Vitality off of the first. Very good for next turn. And maybe it's not all over yet, because now we're going to see a 2-prize KO. You're going to go up by 1 prize, and it's all about the energy at this point. Seinosuke lost game 1 because they ran out of energy. That's how they lost. Here, can you keep the energy?
Now, there's actually something I want to keep an eye on. With that Iron Thorns getting discarded from the Pokestop, how many Iron Thorns does Fernando have access to? So obviously, we can see 2 there in the discard pile, 1 in the active, so only has 1 more available, I believe, if it is in hand. Or it could be in the deck. That's something to keep an eye on.
Has a Techno Radar to go and search for it, is playing the Techno Radar, and I kind of like this because it means, you know your opponent's playing Pokestop. You don't want to risk this getting lost to Pokestop or something else. Get it out of the deck now. But you're right, that's it. That's all the Iron Thorns that are available. So it's going to make things more awkward in the late game, trying to, because we saw last turn, or last game, Fernando did take a damaged Iron Thorn to the bench to protect it.
We are going to see the basic energy getting attached there as the Techno Radar does conclude. Going to grab that Iron Thorns and attach a future booster energy capsule to it as well. We do see a Pokemon catcher in the hand there for Fernando. We are going to play it as well. Let's see what we get. It's a head.
And I like this because I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking frenzied gouging, frenzied gouging, frenzied gouging, frenzied gouging. Because there's only 3 oh, yeah, it does get moved, I suppose. I just want to get rid of all the energy, Shay. I want a frenzied gouging. And if I've got 2 Roaring Moon, I do not care if I self-KO.
Yes. I was about to say, we could just see an energy attachment from this Earthen Vessel. We could see Professor Sada, frenzied gouging, get rid of that Iron Thorn and say, right, I'm going to win next turn. What can you do about it? Earthen Vessel going to discard that Squawkabilly, going to grab 2 basic Dark Energy, Ultra Ball being eyed up here as well. Discarding Pokemon Catcher and a Darkness Energy as well. Looks like eyeing up another Roaring Moon, or just going to consult how many Pokemon Shionosuke has available.
Yeah, not too bad here, trying to figure out exactly what's available. 2 frenzied gouging in a row would win this, and what would be kind of funny is you'd probably KO both your Roaring Moon to do your frenzied gouging. You'd give your opponent 4 prizes, but you'd win by 1 prize if you did it, so you're totally okay giving your opponent 4 prizes. 2 frenzied gouging will win this game. It is all about the energy at this stage. That is what is most important. Of course, Petron also a decent shout. Here comes your Professor Sada attaching an energy.
So there we go, 1 on the active. We're going to see Trekking Shoes. Going to get rid of the Squawkabilly. Love to see that. Going to grab the Nest Ball there by the looks of it. Energy in the hand there as well for Shionosuke. Nest Ball, fail. We are now going to see a Power Pad. Now, I mentioned here, Ross, the Power Pad's going to be super important because Professor Sada last time didn't really get involved too much in Game 1, and that's how Shionosuke managed to run out of resources. If we have Professor Sada drawn into for the rest of this game, Shionosuke will be able to continue attacking.
It's all about the energy. At this stage of the game, I'm pretty confident that if Seinosuke is able to just keep drawing energy, they will win this game. They're ahead on prizes. They're about to go up 4-1. Well, assuming they frenzied gouging, which I think they're gonna. It's all about keeping energy on the board. That is the absolutely crucial thing. You could manually retreat here in frenzied gouging with a fresh Roaring Moon. No, you do it, you KO yourself, you give up 2 prizes, and you don't care because now you've got a Roaring Moon in the active. Fernando can't one-hit KO.
No.
Fernando cannot gust around it.
No.
So unless they can hit double Crushing Hammer, or basically, if Seinosuke gets free energy on that Roaring Moon next turn, he will win this game. So even if you hit double Crushing Hammer, you can still Sada an attachment for turn.
And this is the downside of this Iron Thorns EX deck. Sure, it is very disrupted via Crushing Hammer, Initialization, Giovanni's Charisma. There is a lot of disruption cards, but that all comes at the downside of your offensive output being stuck at 140 or 160 maximum. You do have no one-shot options available in your deck. Fernando is going to play that Professor's Research. Now, are we going to see some energy disruption here, Ross? Fernando needs to stay in this game.
There's a Crushing Hammer.
There is 1 Crushing Hammer. Here we go. This is to decide Game 2.
It's ahead. So he's still in the game for now, forcing Seinosuke to have another energy next turn. If we see an energy, we will see Game 2 for Seinosuke. And we know that we've got an energy in hand, and that is the game. Seinosuke goes up, well, evens it up, I should say. 1-1. We got a Game 3, and Shay, I'm a selfish man. We are on the stage at the World Championships. We're casting World's Final. I don't want it over in 2 games. I want a 3rd game, and that's what we are going to get here.
Shionosuke cooking up an absolute calamity storm there to win Game 2. We're going to get a Game 3. Let's make some noise for Game 3 here in the crowd. I cannot wait to get this started. Oh my goodness, we're going to put a show on here. Shionosuke doing his best to even it up. And you know what I love about this? Anything can happen in 1 game. Oh my goodness gracious me, Ross, we couldn't have painted a better story if we tried.
Yeah, let's go to the replay and paint that story of Game 2 back one more time. because we saw some big KOs. We actually saw the first prize taken by Fernando here with that Iron Thorns EX, but it would be the only prize they took of their own attack. We saw a big KO with Roaring Moon without Frenzied Gouging, but then it was the Frenzied Gouging show. We saw Frenzied Gouging taking a KO and giving up 2 prizes, and this is what I asked for, Shay. I wanted double Frenzied Gouging.
Yep.
Give your opponent 4 prizes and still win the game, and that is what we got.
Exactly that, and Shionosuke just had the basic energy there to attack. And I said at the start of the game, this is Shionosuke's route to victory is to just keep attaching energy over and over and over again. In game 1, we didn't see Professor Sada and Dark Patch that much. In game 2, Professor Sada showed up in a massive way. Worth noting, I don't think Fernando mulliganed this game, so game 3 starting off, Shionosuke might not have any mulligans, so none of these extra resources. And here we go, our game 3 is getting decided and started here, but only an attachment and a pass for Fernando over to Shionosuke, who has led that basic Roaring Moon. Going to start the game off here with trekking shoes, discarding a basic Dark Energy, and taking the next card. Shionosuke, what have you got in your hand there?
I'm not saying it's going to happen, Shay, but it is possible that we could see a Frenzied Gouging turn 1 here and end the match. That is within the realms of possibility. 2 in combination of Dark Patch and Professor Sada, attachment for turn, switch into the active. We could see, I don't know how likely it is. Seinosuke keeps choosing to go first, so that tells us that their turn 1 KO is not that great, because if it was, they keep choosing to go second. But I'm telling you, there's a chance.
I mean, it's a chance. It'd be very, very hard, especially with that Prime Catcher currently in the prize cards there. For Shionosuke, that's the only switching card there. 1 Roaring Moon, Pokegear, Boss's Orders as well. Over, Fernando has prized Penny, Iron Thorns, Basic Lightning Energy, Pokegear, Energy Lotto, and a Professor's Research. Now, I'm really interested to see that since Fernando didn't mulligan at all there, if there's extra resources that Shionosuke had to start game 2, if it's going to be super impactful here.
Well, we're going to grab a Roaring Moon first of all here, and that is the first part of the puzzle.
Yes.
There's a lot to ask, but here's the thing. You don't actually have to win the game turn 1. It would be fun to win the game turn 1. You don't actually have to do so.
No.
What you really need to do is what you did in the first 2 games. You need to get your basics down. You need to get some energy established on the board. And since Seinosuke went second, that does mean that you can go for Professor Sada's Vitality, for instance.
Fantastic, and this 70 damage is super crucial. It means Calamity Storm can take a KO. We do have a basic energy in the hand there for Shionosuke, so can attach that to the active and do a Vengeance Fletching there for that, I think it'd be 80 damage so far. Super relevant here, Ross. And this 1 prize KO for Fernando is essentially useless, as Shionosuke only plays other 2 prize Pokemon, forcing Fernando to still force his way through 3 EX Pokemon.
This is what we saw in game 2, Shay. We saw a little bit of chip damage with the Calamity Storm, or the Vengeance Fletchling. And then we saw KO, and then we saw double Frenzied Gouging, and that was the route to victory. And the only thing stopping Seinosuke was energy.
We see a Pokestop going to get rid of an Iron Note, a Professor's Research, but did get a Techno Radar. Now, that might be super impactful. Fernando only has 1 Pokemon in play right now, might have needed. Let's consult that hand. Arven, Energy, Judge, Research, and a Catcher.
Have we mentioned that Prime Catcher is prized for Seinosuke yet?
We have.
Okay, that's good. Because what's prized for Fernando is the 1 of Penny.
Yes.
Which is a way
we do see a Catcher heads there. Sorry, Ross. That's going to get the Roaring Moon EX into the active.
But yeah, okay, that's quite nice. That makes it less likely to get a KO next turn. It means Dark Patch isn't an option onto that Roaring Moon EX. I think we're probably too early in the game for a Penny here, because you need to kind of establish your board. You need to set up.
Yes.
However, Penny to heal after the damage with Vengeance Fletchling is a pretty good option.
Yep.
But not when the only copy of Penny is in your prizes. So we see a good look through here from Fernando, having a good look at his deck, figuring out what's prized. Obviously, we know we're getting 2 Iron Thorns. You play 4 in the deck. It makes the, it makes this a very predictable card, shall we say.
We do see the Chorus Tenacity being used as well. Going to grab that basic Lightning Energy and the Lost City as well. See if Fernando probably doesn't want to put Lost, or actually might want to put Lost City in play. Apologize to get around that Pokestop, but that does give a Calamity Storm a way to get extra damage without using your own stadiums.
It does indeed. So we see the Iron Thorns hitting the bench here, having a little bit of backup. There goes Lost City to get rid of the Pokestop energy on the active, so that Volt Cyclone is now available, and we hit 120. Remember the 20 reduction from double turbo energy. Now, can Seinosuke find a way to get free energy on that active Roaring Moon, it only really takes a Professor Sada and an attachment from turn.
It really does. Professor Sada is going to be super impactful here. That catcher head is going to be really awkward for Seinosuke to sort of hurdle over, but if he can, could be in a very strong position. I think that was a judge being eyed up, though. It was, so there will be no Professor Sada this turn.
No Professor Sada, and once again, this judge really could end up determining this game free. If one player draws a lot better than the other off this judge, and they both get 4 cards, if one plays better than draws better than the other, that could end up deciding this game. But I'll tell you, Seinosuke draws, plays 2 judge. Fernando plays 3. They're both preparing for this, but here's the big difference. Seinosuke plays Squawkabilly, Raiding Greninja, and Pheasantipity. That's the draw engine. None of them work in this matchup. It makes Judge more scary.
So Fernando did get double turbo energy there. Didn't quite get to see what Seinosuke had. I see Ultra Ball, I see a Dark Patch and a basic energy. All really good cards to have in this scenario. Won't be able to move this Roaring Moon X out the active. We do just see a pass over to Fernando. Let's see what he can do. Just need a lightning energy still to attack even. This Pokégear could be super impactful. Currently not in the hand, that lightning energy. Chorus or another supporter. I see a Judge.
Oh, Judge would be quite risky here. But a Judge is always risky.
It is.
So, why not? Have a go. But we're looking for a Chorus. We're looking for a lightning energy. Of course, Chorus's tenacity can actually grab a basic or a special energy.
Yes.
We're going for Arven instead here. We've got a Future Boost energy capsule, and with double turbo in hand, you can retreat the active, attach double turbo, and attack with your benched Iron Thorns, which will be enough to KO.
It would be, but then that would mean that you'd have 2 Iron Thorns with damage on. Could be impactful later on, but you're right, it is definitely a possibility. So we are going to see that Future Booster energy capsule being taken. Arven just deciding there, Fernando, on what to take off that item card is going to go for the Techno Radar.
And I think at some point, if we do see lots of damaged Iron Thorns, we're going to see this single prize Roaring Moon be weaved in here.
Yes. Because
it's a way to take a prize and say to your opponent, if you KO this, you're not helping your prize map. It's as if you didn't really take a KO because it's the only one prizer I'm ever going to play. So it's actually a way to kind of take a prize while saying to your opponent, you get nothing for KOing this in return.
Yeah, and you're right. It's worth noting as well, with all those 3 Iron Thorns in play, with the 4th Iron Thorns currently prized, if Fernando doesn't liberate that, this is all the Iron Thorns we're going to see. We do see the Future Booster Energy Capsule attached to the active. We are going to see a free retreat thanks to that Future Booster Energy Capsule. And we are going to see a Volt Cyclone for a KO. Fernando takes the first prize card here in our Game 3 Masters Final. And that Roaring Moon has to go to the Lost Zone. Won't be powering up Vengeance Fletchling. Seinosuke, what can you do? Can you respond here?
Yeah, well, you've got an attack, but the attack isn't quite enough. And if you're going to be damaging, you really want to be finishing off with this Roaring Moon, that single prize, because then you're giving up that one prize for kind of nothing. But here comes Professor Sada, and we got a Dark Patch onto your bench Roaring Moon.
Ooh,
there's an energy.
Here we go.
And we just do see Vengeance Fletchling. I like
that.
Because, essentially the route here is really simple. You just go Calamity Storm, Frenzied Gouging. Oh, look, 6 prizes. You've won. And there's no one-hit KO on Roaring Moon, the EX. KOing the single prizer doesn't really do anything for your prize map.
But we do see the penny to remove that damaged Iron Thorns EX from play. That's going to make it a lot harder for Seinosuke to do that exact prize map with those attacks, as you mentioned. We see an energy attached to the active. Need the Future Booster energy capsule to make sure you actually get a KO there. So we are going to see a KO on that Roaring Moon in the active. And again, that will be getting sent to the Lost Zone, so that won't be getting any extra ancient cards there. Seinosuke does promote the fresh Roaring Moon here, though. We'll be able to take some prize cards at the very least. Let's see if Seinosuke can force his way back into this game.
And if Seinosuke can just get 3 KOs on the bounce here, that should still give them the victory. That should still be enough to get them over. Because, unfortunately, Fernando now is going to be 2-hit KOing for the rest of the game.
Oh, I think we just saw a Calamity Storm there. We didn't see any bench Pokemon or any extra energy attachment. We'll take a Roaring Moon and a bench energy out the prize cards here, though. Has Fernando got a double turbo energy in hand? I think he should off that penny last turn, right? So we'll be able to attack.
He had 2 in hand when he attached the last one.
Okay.
So, yes, there is 1 in hand. We are good. So there goes the energy to the active. We're going to get an attack off here. And it looks like we're eyeing up an Arven. Go and grab yourself a tool and an item card.
Okay. Whew. Okay, it's getting very exciting here. We do see this Arven being played. Now, one that we're going to grab here. Future Boost Energy Capsule is very nice. It's going to boost damage and give free retreat cost as well. Fernando, because, you know, if Shionosuke opts to use Calamity Storm, can start to play musical chairs and just sort of avoid KOs. And let's see what the item card here is, though. Crushing, could be iron up the Crushing Hammer. That would be a thorn in Shionosuke's side, because we've already established that Shionosuke needs to get loads of energy in play to have attackers ready to go. Crushing Hammer could be a thorn in Shionosuke's side there and stop him doing that.
Absolutely could. That generally is the right decision in this matchup. Yes, it's on a coin flip, but like we keep saying, Seinosuke here, all the question is, can you keep the energy on the board?
Here we do see that Crushing Hammer being played there. Sorry, what's and it's ahead!
That is a big flip. Yes, Seinosuke is going to be able to replace that energy, but it means that the next Roaring Moon is going to be one energy further away from coming out. It is not what you are looking for. So we're going to see an energy attachment to the bench.
No, you have to attach DG to the active. No, can't do that, Fernando, but we are going to move that double turbo energy to the bench. We do see that Volt Cyclone of 140. Now, Shionosuke, Professor Sada here would be huge. Does he have it in hand? I can see a Roaring Moon. I can see an Ultra Ball at the very least. He's going to consult the discard pile. We do need to see another attacker from Shionosuke at some point if he wants to continue his run of becoming a world champion.
And the thing is, we're not like we were in Game 2. In Game 2, Seinosuke could just go, well, nah, it's all right, it's a frenzied gouging, I don't care if I KO myself. Well, now you're down by a prize. You actually do care if you KO yourself. So you need to be a little bit careful. Or maybe you force a sudden death game because you go, you know what?
Yeah.
I feel great in sudden death in this particular matchup. We're way away from that yet, though.
Is a possibility. That would be incredible. Let's see what Shionosuke does. Does bench a Roaring Moon by the looks of it? We are, yep. That's good, but this is where that Crushing Hammer is going to be super impactful, because now you would love to bench that and attach your energy to it, but instead you have to just attach to the active just to keep up tempo, but that means you're not getting other attackers lined up. It doesn't look like Professor Sada is currently available. No, we do see a Pokemon catcher here, though.
And we
it's
see
ahead. Okay, so that's going to get that Iron Thorns EX into the active with the double turbo energy. We are going to see that Roaring Moon EX getting benched potentially.
Seinosuke's hand is low-key kind of terrible.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of Ultra Ball. We've got ourselves a Roaring Moon. We've got an energy. Like, you're not playing a supporter card of any description here. You've got 2 Ultra Ball and a Pokemon which I think might be a Roaring Moon. And that's it. That's all you've got.
We are going to see a frenzy gouging here, though, Ross, as that's going to take Shionosuke down to 2 prize cards left. Going to take the Prime Catcher and the Trekking Shoes, it looks like, out of the prize cards. Fernando, what can we do here? Is there a double turbo energy in that? I don't think there is.
We basically, what Seinosuke's done beautifully here is force Fernando to have a double
But did find the Corvus Tenacity there off the Pokegear. Sorry there, Ross. That was a huge Pokegear.
Yeah, absolutely, it was huge. Pokegear finds a Chorus. Chorus will find the double turbo. That means that you will be able to get the attack off this turn with Iron Thorns, and that is what Seinosuke was hoping to avoid. There is still a route to an attack here next turn for Seinosuke. It's a little bit awkward. You kind of need Pecharunt. Pecharunt,
yes.
Next turn, I'm just saying, we'll win the World Championships. So putting that out there, Pecharunt would be quite good.
We do see the Chorus Tenacity being played there as the Energy Lotto did grab a basic Lightning. There was not a DT, so it looks like we are going to see a DT and a Lost City being taken there off that Chorus Tenacity. So that means we will see a Volt Cyclone, which is going to be very impactful.
Going to be incredibly impactful. It's going to put Seinosuke on a huge clock here of 1 turn. We see Canceling Cologne. That doesn't do anything. It's just getting it out of the hand. And then we're going to see, are we going to see a Volt Cyclone? Looks like we're going to. Is it time? We're going to wait a minute.
No, I think we are going to see a Volt Cyclone. Interesting, we decide to bench a Pokemon. We're not. That means there will be no Prime Catcher out. Okay, Shionosuke, what is that top deck? It's going to be super impactful. It's a Judge.
Oh, I don't mind Judge at all here. The thing is, I want a Dark Patch onto a Pecharunt, and then I want to use Prime Catcher as a switch, but I don't have a Dark Patch, and I do have Prime Catcher, and then I'm going to play Judge.
Yeah, but you think, you can't play the Prime Catcher if your opponent hasn't got a bench Pokemon.
I mean, you know, that as well.
So that was a real heads-up play there for Fernando, opting to debate both to bench that Iron Thorns, but didn't. So that means it's going to be very hard for Shionosuke to actually be able to remove that Roaring Moon. Now, there is possible, but it's going to be quite hard, especially if Shionosuke has to play that Judge. I don't think there's Professor Sada in hand, so it might have to be a Judge and pray.
Yeah, and unfortunately here, there's no gusting targets on Fernando's bench. We do see the Petrump being, I think, discarded with the trekking shoes. I don't know if Seinosuke's got any way around this here.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be a pokey stop. Here we go. Catcher, Earthen Vessel, Nest Ball. I don't think that's going to get Seinosuke out of this. I don't think there's a way of maneuvering that Roaring Moon, Ross.
No, and if that Roaring Moon is in the active at the start of next turn, Fernando is going to be crowned the champion. We see an Earthen Vessel coming out here. One last look through the deck for Seinosuke. You're in that situation here where you're thinking, I've probably lost. I'm going to look through my deck for every possible chance of an out here. Is there anything in the deck that can get it? There's one, maybe two energy. Is there an attacker? Is there a switch? We are thinking. What are we thinking here, Shay?
I'm thinking that there might not be a way out of this, but Seinosuke just going to conclude that Earthen Vessel.
And there is the hand! Fernando Cifuentes is your 2024 Pokémon Trading Card Game World Champion.
Fernando takes the World Championship trophy back to Chile for the first time ever in Pokémon history, and the first person to ever win a World Championship title with only 4 Pokémon in his deck. Congratulations to Fernando Cifuentes!
Well, look at you with the facts there ready, Shay. As soon as he won the championships, you had the facts out there, and Iron Thorns EX is your Masters Division champion.